Yo, what is going on, guys? Today we're bringing a juicy Templar build. For our race of choice, it's going to be a Dark Elf, and that is just simply because it gives you the best passive. Dynamic increases your magicka and stamina by 2k, very nice. Increases your weapon and spell damage by 260, also very nice. And resist flame, increases your flame resist by 4600. This is underrated. It's actually very strong in my opinion, since there is quite a bit of flame damage and you're a vampire also, so having that extra flame resist comes in very handy in my opinion. For other races of choice, if you don't want to be a Dark Elf, Imperial for some extra sustain I think is very good. Nord is also very good. You can even maybe get away with Khajiit here, or even High Elf, but I definitely think running a Dark Elf is the race of choice. I'd probably go Dark Elf, then High Elf second, and then Imperial would be my top 3. But for this build, I recommend Dark Elf. Our max stats will be 44 mag, 20 health, and 0 stamina. This allows us to hit 22,000 maximum magicka, 30k max health, 17k max stam with 1100 stam and mag recovery, 5400 spell damage, 15% crit, 6300 penetration, and 18k physical and spell resist with 1800 crit resist. Our stats fully buffed up will be 7700 weapon damage or 7500 spell damage, 27% crit with 2000 mag and stam recovery, 28,000 physical and spell resist with 1800 crit resist. For our Mundus of choice, we are running the Apprentice. Now you can run whatever Mundus you want instead. If you want some more tankiness, Lady I definitely recommend running. If you are a newer player, I also recommend the Lady, since the extra survivability can come in very handy if you are relatively new to the game. But whatever Mundus you want can go here, it does not really matter. Smoked bear haunch is the food of choice. Now if you aren't rich and you can't afford this nice piece of meat, then Jews and Mistral is another very good option. It's basically the purple version of this food. It's just slightly worse in every way, but it's a lot cheaper, and I definitely recommend running that over smoked bear haunch. Vampire Stage 3 is a must for every PvP build, and that is just simply because of this passive right here, Undeath. Reduce your damage taken by up to 30% based on your missing health. This allows players to survive in clutch situations when they get low on HP, and just makes them a whole lot tankier and allows them to heal right back up to full HP without dying. So Vampire Stage 3 is a must. For our first set here, we are running Battleground. I didn't use Battleground when I was showing you the spell damage, so we can almost break 8k when Battleground is fully up, and that's without being in Cyrodiil. But if you don't want to run Battleground, the Warped is another great option. It gives you a bunch of sustain, and that's why I would also recommend running if you are a newer player, is Warped over Balor, since the extra sustain can definitely come in clutch when you are not using your abilities properly. If I was 1vxing, I would rather use Warped 2 over Balor's, but in Battlegrounds and 1v1s, I prefer Balor's over Warped. So it just comes down to personal preference and what you're kind of doing. Or if you're running in a group, Balor's is also better if you're in a group, since you will have more people helping you in surviving. So it just basically comes down to what you're doing and your personal preference, but Warped or Balor's are both very good options here. One Piece Trainee, and then Wretched Vitality on our back bar. This set is amazing. It gives you basically 500 mag and stam recovery, which cannot be underestimated, allowing you to sustain and basically giving you infinite resources, and allows you to survive those clutch situations easier. And then for our front bar here, we are running Deadly. Deadly increases your damage with your damage over time effects by 15% and your channeled abilities. This is massive, increasing your damage basically across the board, since everything we do is either channeled or a damage over time. So this is massive for our overall damage. For our weapons, I recommend Absorb Magicka and Absorb Stamina, with Nirnhone and Sharpen and Maces for most overall damage. You can run Poisons here if you don't want to run Restore Mag and Stamina Glyphs. You can definitely run Poisons here instead. Totally up to you, totally personal preference, but I definitely would try and get Maces here over anything else. If you can't get Maces, Sword would be the second best option. For our back bar, we are running Sword and Board and Sturdy, Max Magicka Enchantment to get the most healing on our back bar, and Powered with a Weapon Damage Enchant. I don't run Race Against Time on this build, so you would have to run the Poisons, which give you Major Expedition, since we are not running Rat on this build. But if you are choosing to run Rat, then you can run either Poisons here or the Weapon Damage Enchantment instead. Either one works. Once again, totally personal preference. For our jewelry here, we're running all infused spell damage glyphs here to get the extra mag recovery. And then our mythic of choice will of course be Sea Serpent Coil. I think this mythic is amazing. It's still probably the best mythic in the entire game. The snare can be kind of annoying, but once you get used to it through bunny hopping and all that, you kind of get used to the snare and you get better with playing with it over time. If you don't want to run Sea Serpent Coil, then Death Dealer Fate is the second best option in my opinion. It gives you max stats across the board and gives you a lot of extra survivability while giving you damage. So I either would run Sea Serpent Coil. If you don't like the snare, run Death Dealer's Fate. But the main reason we run Sea Serpent Coil here is just simply for the Major Berserk and Major Courage, increasing our damage done by 10% and increasing our weapon and spell damage by 430. This is massive, giving us a bunch of extra damage and burst potential while we are on the offensive. And for our armor, we're running 3 medium in-pen prismatic glyphs on our hands, legs, and feet. All prismatic, all in-pen, 1 light sash in-pen, and then a heavy chest reinforced, heavy helmet reinforced, and heavy shoulders reinforced, all prismatic. So once again, we're running 3 heavy, 1 light, and 3 medium. You always want to make sure your chest is heavy since it gives you the most overall armor, and you always want this one to be reinforced, and you always want to be having your light piece on your sash since it gives the least amount of armor. Onto our skills here, running Biting Jab. This is our major form of brutality and sorcery, so you have to make sure this is up every 10 seconds. Extremely important, or you will be losing a lot of damage and healing. So before you switch to your back bar to heal, just use Jab's animation, cancel it with a bar swap to get the major brutality and sorcery up, so you can have your heals on your back bar. Not only for that, but it also gives you minor protection for 6 seconds, reduces your damage taken by 5%, so it also gives you some extra tankiness after using jabs. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you use this every 10 seconds. Extremely important, or you lose a lot of damage. Living Dark, probably one of the best heals in the game. It reduces your movement speed by 40%. Same with jabs, reduces your movement speed by 40%, but this gives you a nasty heal. Purifying Light, I like this one over the other one because it gives me a nice heal whenever I'm near them, so I get a heal from Living Dark and Purifying Light, just giving me more survivability, which I really do enjoy, because the more healing you have, the longer you can stay alive. Vampire's Bane, this is our major Savagery and Prophecy, increasing your weapon and critical rating by 2600. I chose to run this because Expert Hunter here, it gives you minor berserk when you crit from the flank, but that isn't always reliable. Plus this is just a flat damage over time, so this is always up. So I think this will do more damage throughout a fight more consistently than Camouflage Hunter. But if you want to push your damage, your spell damage higher, since we are stacking a lot of spell damage on this build, then you can definitely, I can see slotting Camouflage Hunter here over Vampire's Bane. But I think Vampire's Bane is better. Radiant Glory, the best execute in the entire game. This thing will shred people when they get around 25 or 30% HP. You will absolutely obliterate their HP, and they will just completely evaporate. Dawnbreaker of Smiting is our ultimate of choice. This was our only stun for this build, so do keep that in mind. You can drop Purifying Light if you want to use Javelin here. I don't recommend it. Dawnbreaker of Smiting is all the stun I really find that I need, so I don't recommend running Javelin here, because I think Dawnbreaker Smiting is the only stun that we need. But you can run Crescent Sweep if you want instead, and then you would have to drop Purifying Light for Javelin, because you do need at least one stun on. Onto our back bar here, Honor of the Dead, amazing heal. Healing anyone who is below 75% health, which is 20% of the ability's cost every 2 seconds over 6 seconds. This basically makes this ability free when you're using it, because it reduces the price by 54% when you're below 75% health. So you can just spam this, and it allows you to get back up to high HP without completely sucking your magicka pool dry. Here's Armor. This gives us minor and major breach, allowing us to get some nasty physical and spell resistance reduction onto our opponent, allowing us to do even more damage to them. Resolving Vigor, an amazing heal over time, gives us minor resolve, increasing your physical and spell resistance by 3k for 20 seconds. Nothing else to be said here. Amazing ability. Extended Ritual, this removes 5 harmful effects from yourself and gives us a juicy 3000 health heal every 2 seconds for 30 seconds. But if you don't want to run Purifying Light, then this is where I would run your movement ability. So Race Against Time would go here. If you want to drop Extended Ritual, this is where I would put it, and then you wouldn't have to run Escapist Poisons on the back bar. You can also run Defending here if you don't want to run Powered. That's completely personal preference. I just always prefer Powered because I enjoy the extra healing it gives. But once again, if you don't want to run Extended Ritual, Race Against Time here is another great option. Either one works, totally up to you, personal preference. They're both very good. But if you do run Extended Ritual, you have to run a Major Expedition Poisons on your sword here, so you have a form of that. But if you don't want to go that, and you don't have the money for it, then just slot Race Against Time here. You won't be missing out on too much. Channel Focus. I chose the Magicka morph here because I like the extra Magicka sustain it gives. Since we are primarily drawing from Magicka based abilities, since everything costs Magicka except our jabs, our vigor, and our pierce armor, I chose this morph for the extra mag sustain it gives me, which I do really like. It also gives us a nice heal when we stand in it, going up by 200% if you're sitting in it, so this can be a very chunky heal if you're sitting in channel focus. Extended ritual, vigor is running, and then you have purifying light running, and then you have living dark running. Like, you have so many heals and you become virtually unkillable. And then spell wall here is your kind of your oh shit button. If you're getting a lot of pressure and you're taking a lot of damage, you pop spell wall. This basically, you can't die for 7 seconds is what this basically does. Allows you to automatically block all attacks at no cost and reflect all projectiles cast at you for 7 seconds. So this gives you basically a 7-second window where you can rebuff up, get yourself back up to full HP, and get back into the fight. Spell wall is very good for that, so I really like running here. If you don't run spell wall, you can definitely run Temporal Guard here for the 100% uptime on minor protection. But I don't think it's necessary because you have good jab usage. You can get that through spear wall here, gain minor protection for 6 seconds just by using jabs consistently, which you should be doing because it is our major source of brutality and sorcery. Onto our blue tree here, I recommend running Untamed Aggression, Master at Arms, Biting Aura, and Ironclad. This is just simply because I want the most overall damage, and Ironclad because it makes us the most tankiness. You can run Focus Bending here if you want some more healing, but I just think Untamed Aggression is just better since it affects both our healing, our damage, so I recommend running Untamed Aggression here over Focus Mending. For our red tree here, I recommend Fortify, Pain Refuge, Sustained by Suffering, and Celerity here for some extra movement speed. Since Templars don't have a good way to get movement speed, I like actually running Celerity here. You can also run Survival Instincts if you don't want to run that instead. So if you're running Race Against Time, Survival Instinct, I would run that instead because you don't need the extra movement speed as much if you're running Race Against Time, since you have a guaranteed way to always proc Major Expedition. Purifying Ritual, then I recommend Celerity here for the extra movement speed. For our green tree here, I recommend Get the Rider, War Mount, Rasher, and Liquid Efficiency. So the way you want to play this build is make sure you have everything up, of course, 100% of the time, and then immediately after you auto attack Pierce Armor, use Bar Swap, and you're putting the Living Dark, then put Purifying Light onto your opponent, hit them with the nice ball, and then you just start auto attacking, jab spamming. And when they get low HP, you just hit them with the Radiant Glory. Now, if you want to know when to Dawnbreaker, I like to Dawnbreaker around 75% HP because it can catch people off guard. And then you just go for like maybe one jab in there, and then Radiant Glory and their health will absolutely evaporate. I'll show you our damage fully buffed up here. So if you want to see our damage on our spells here, our jab does 5,700 with our Radiant Oppression or Radiant Glory. With our Radiant Glory doing 18k and our Dawnbreaker doing 22,000 with 27,000 physical damage over 6 seconds. So we absolutely pump on this build. That's without Balorgs being proc whatsoever. Then in mind we are running Balorgs. So if you have Balorgs proc there, you'll be breaking 8k easily. And if you're in Cyrodiil and you get the keep buff, you would be pushing like into the mid 8,000s in terms of spell damage. You'd be absolutely shredding your opponent. So once again, you just want to always start with everything up like this. Start with the auto attack Pierce Armor to get the poison or your glyph here or your weapon damage on, and to reduce their physical and spell resistance. Immediately bar swap, put the Purifying Light on Dark to make sure you have good survivability. And then Vampire's Bane, and you just want to jab spam as much as possible. If they get around 70-75%, that's when you should look to Dawnbreaker. Does about 20k, get a nice chunky Dawnbreaker in there. If they get around 30%, 35%, I recommend just going straight into the Glory here. It will just evaporate their HP since it does 18k at 200%. That thing is already pumping damage at low HP. We are also running tripods. I should mention that. I always tend to forget that. But if you guys have any questions regarding the build, I'd be happy to answer anything down in the comments below. And with that, I hope you guys did enjoy the video.